I'm excited to see him go up against Caleb Williams, who he wasn't even on TV. And somehow his highlights, you had to have FUBU or something like that for us by us TV.
Yeah.
That's the only way you could watch USC play this weekend or whatever. But he looked really good on Twitter. I did not watch the game. How could I possibly have accomplished that? But
Right.
Andrew, who's your first sleeper?
My first sleeper is going to be Sam Howell of the Washington Commanders. Even when they were throwing in their third string, the corpse of Joe Flacco, he was still producing, still making plays.
Still a Super Bowl MVP.
That is true.
And people forget that.
After a blackout in a Super Bowl, that's pretty fun.
Thanks, Obama.
I don't know if it's exactly. That was a time frame and everything. That.
Oh, hello, and welcome to What Are We Talking About with Jamie Jakes. I am him, and I am here today with Caleb B. Davis, producer Caleb B. Davis on the show. Caleb, how you feeling? Going to produce the show for the first time today?
Yep. I feel more comfortable than normal. This chair is reclined.
Yeah, that is a very loose. There's no way to tighten it up.
Yeah,
on the
I feel
bottom
like the
half
dude
of it.
from South Park PC Gaming, so I'm perfect. I'm ready.
That is my favorite episode of the World of Warcraft. Anyways, and we also have Mr. Andrew Hong sitting over to the far right of me. We do have Mr. Boston. You probably already saw him. He's going to be all over us all episode. Don't let him distract you from the awesome NFL football talk that we are here to talk about today. We are going to do our season-long prediction episode. I am extremely excited about it. We are going to do offensive, defensive rookie of the year. We are going to do my guys for fantasy football. We are going to do our top busts. We are going to predict who's going to play in the Super Bowl. We're going to predict who's going to win the Super Bowl. We are going to, what else are we going to predict today? Did I miss anything, Andrew?
Do we talk about busts?
We're going to talk about fantasy football busts. All right.
Bold predictions.
Bold predictions. That is the final thing. We are going to do 2 bold predictions for this upcoming NFL season. Andrew, how are you feeling about it? Are you excited? Are you nervous?
I'm feeling good. You know, a lot of hours that other people have spent researching, I've piggybacked off of that. So I'm ready to roll.
It's the best way to do it.
Well, all of my research came straight in between these years right here. So there you go. So let's get it started, y'all. I did a quick little episode to recap the Colorado TCU game. Happened right down the street. We were recording here in Dallas, Texas. We were talking before the show. Absolutely insane game. Super impressive with Coach Prime. Andrew, what were you expecting going into the game? That's the question I'm going to ask you.
I was expecting them to kind of struggle. It was hard to know how they would look after bringing in 70 new players.
Colorado.
I did not expect their offense to look just so coherent.
Yeah, they looked absolutely incredible. Obviously, Travis Hunter is the next superstar in the NFL. I don't know how exactly they're going to use him in the NFL, but he is definitely going to have to go both ways. He's just too valuable of an asset not to. And Coach Prime's kid, he looks really, really good. I'm excited to see him go up against Caleb Williams, who also just he wasn't even on TV. And somehow his highlights, you had to have FUBU or something like that for us by us TV.
Yeah.
That's the only way you could watch USC play this weekend or whatever. But he looked really good on Twitter. I did not watch the game. How could I possibly have accomplished that? But I'm excited to see him play. And then Oregon put up 81 points in their game as well. So we're going to have at least 3 good college football games this season. That's really all you can ask for out of college.
Yep.
And that is why this is a NFL primary podcast show on YouTube. And let's get it started. What do you guys think?
I'm excited. I'm excited to start.
All right. So for our first segment, we are going to do our fantasy football my guys, the guys that you are going to put your name behind. This is a guaranteed, can't miss, automatic hit based on my research, my brain, and my knowledge of the NFL game. Who wants to go first in my guys? Why don't I lead the way, huh? I'm the host of this show. My first my guy, he is currently going in the first round of fantasy football drafts, at least on Underdog, not on other platforms where he's a little bit lower. He is going to start a trend that you will see throughout my several season-long predictions going forward. He is on a certain team that I really, really like. He is a generational talent, and he gets compared to guys like Chris Olave, and I think it's just honestly disrespectful to what a talent Mr. Garrett Wilson is. He is a my guy. So I'm going to get this out of the way, by the way, barring injury. That's the last time that needs to be said this episode. Okay? Unless we're talking about a guy who is injury prone. You don't have to say barring injury this episode going forward. So with that being said, Garrett Wilson, I think his floor is wide receiver 3 this year. All I needed to see, I didn't even honestly need to see what I saw in the preseason game where Aaron Rodgers came in and basically just stared Garrett Wilson down the whole time. After he came out and said, honestly, I just stare Garrett Wilson down because he just gets open no matter what. Seeing him on Hard Knocks have a shitty drive. Aaron Rodgers, he goes pouts in the corner for 5 seconds. And then did you guys see that episode?
I did not see that episode.
So the first thing he says before talking to a coach, before talking to his offensive line, before talking to anybody, he goes, 17, why don't you step into my office? And Garrett Wilson comes on over and takes a knee, and he just starts talking ball. He's like, here's what I need you to tell the other guys. On a team where Randall Cobb is a vocal leader we've seen as well, has worked with Aaron Rodgers in the past. That's how much Aaron Rodgers respects Garrett Wilson in his game and his knowledge of the game, because he is super duper intelligent. And that doesn't get talked about enough either. He is super intelligent, and he just has that freak athleticism that is going to set him apart with Aaron Rodgers, who we've seen him produce with Devontae Adams in the past. Garrett Wilson, my guy on this episode. Your thoughts? Caleb B. Davis.
No, I love that. I think everything fell in his favor in terms of Aaron Rodgers going to New York, Dalvin Cook going to New York, just the way that their defense has really developed in terms of not only, veteran talent, but also rookie talent. Yep. The Jets have done an excellent job with that. So, I mean, it's facilitating his athleticism at this point that's really going to help him, get him up in the conversation with people like Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams. I think he's going to have one of those seasons this year. I could totally see that. Makes a lot of sense. Yep.
And by the way, Cooper Kupp, we didn't cover it on this show, does have a hamstring injury, very concerning. Not going to probably start week 1 of the NFL season. So look at Puka Nacua, look at Van Jefferson. You probably already should have been doing that because they were good values at where they're going. Now they're extremely good values. Probably going to win you some games early on this season in best ball. Anyways, going back to Garrett Wilson, the other thing about him is, good point. Like, he does have the talent, but he produced last year.
Yeah.
He was lower on the overall wide receiver rankings than he should have been, because he only scored 4 touchdowns last year.
And
he caught over 1,100 passing yards from just nobody.
Yeah.
Where guys like Elijah Moore, guys that will probably produce this year, have produced in the past, could not produce for the Jets as a wide receiver. Garrett Wilson was able to shine, and that's another reason. Go ahead, Andrew. I know you were going to try to say something.
I was just going to say he had some huge blow-up games with Zach Wilson, but then even when they were throwing in their third string, the corpse of Joe Flacco, he was still producing, still making plays.
Still a Super Bowl MVP.
That is true.
And people forget that.
After a blackout in a Super Bowl. That's pretty fun. Fun trivia.
Thanks, Obama.
I don't know if it's... Yeah, exactly. That was a time frame and everything. That one worked perfect.
Yeah. Anyways, Garrett Wilson, my guy. Caleb B. Davis.
So I think my personal guy for fantasy this year is not going to be like a huge shocker. It's not a huge surprise. But I am tired of seeing one specific athlete over him consistently. Being drafted as early as 1 first pick in the first round. Why is that never Jalen Hurts? Why is it like almost exclusively Patrick Mahomes? Not even in just dynasty leagues.
I love it.
But you see you see team owners that are like Pat Mahomes at any of the first 12 or 8 picks in the first round. you will never see Jalen Hurts unless you know that Pat Mahomes is 1-1. So I don't like that. I don't like seeing Pat Mahomes be the first QB off the board that then runs the gauntlet where you see Joe Burrow and then Justin Herbert and then Jalen Hurts. I think if you're willing to take Patrick Mahomes 1-1, you might as well just take Jalen Hurts 1-1. I think for me that makes so much more sense with just the sheer momentum that Philadelphia is running with. Offensively, defensively, they're going to be the scariest team in the NFL, and Jalen Hurts is my guy. I think Jalen Hurts is my guy. And I don't even have him in most of my leagues, but I believe in him. Anyone else who gets him, I'm like, that's my guy, but you can have him this season.
Yep. Yeah. In best ball, he is going around the 2-3 turn. But like you said, in a lot of home leagues, you will see Patrick Mahomes go really early for whatever. Well, I mean, obviously not for whatever reason.
It's
the number
deserved.
one, with all due respect to Patrick Mahomes, number one overall quarterback last season in fantasy football in pretty much all formats. But I love Jalen Hurts. He is my number one ranked quarterback going into the season. Shout out to my dynasty startup that started last season where I got Josh Allen first overall, and my idiot league mates let Jalen Hurts in a super flex league get all the way back around to me. Dynasty super flex. What a bunch of idiots those guys are. Anyways, shout out to them. And yeah, you got to remember, so only concern with Jalen Hurts, injury history.
Yeah.
Right?
That's fair.
So he does have an injury history, so we do have to bring it up. That is one of the things that I think Lamar Jackson and him kind of have in common, but Lamar Jackson gets penalized for it and Jalen Hurts doesn't.
Yeah.
Having been on a Superflex league last year where Jalen Hurts was not available for the whole playoffs, was one of the reasons that I did lose. The second reason being Damar Hamlin, shout out to him, was also the reason that I lost. But anyways, I love Jalen Hurts. Any thoughts on Jalen Hurts, Andrew?
No, I love it. I love picking players based on touchdown potential. And this is a guy who can go nuclear.
Mm-hmm.
He probably has like a 40, 50 total touchdown thing in him, which is insane.
Yep.
So.
And he did not play. Also, somebody who had him in fantasy last year did not play fourth quarter, barely played second half because that defense was so dominant and that offense was so dominant. They would put up 35 in the first half and then just run the clock out, go 3 and out 14 times in the second half. And that was a win for them.
And I do want to clarify, because Patrick Mahomes, like, I'm not trying to say I don't see why people would do that. I do understand the value Travis Kelce brings to that team, but it feels like it's just so much more weight bearing on Patrick Mahomes specifically with people in the backfield like Isaiah Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jerick McKinnon, wideouts, Justin Ross. Even without Tyreek Hill, I mean, like, he's got those guys there. I think it's just the infancy of their career where a lot of them are still so young and still determining what kind of role they're going to play in such a dynamic offense that when I see the Eagles around Hurts rather than the Chiefs around
way better
Mahomes,
situation.
it's so much better.
Granted, Travis Kelce, you got to, with all due respect, Travis Kelce, that situation with the offensive line, with the weapons they have at running back, which we'll see if Swift can stay healthy, with AJ Brown.
Yeah, like you've got those names already on the wide. Even Dallas Goedert, dude, that's another interchangeable tight end Goddard, one. You know, so
traded for him in Dynasty, didn't even bring him up. That's how crazy that offense is.
Yeah.
And my last thing on Jalen Hurts is every year, if you look since he has left Alabama and gone to OU, his numbers have just gotten better and better. His improvement on the field has gotten better and better.
That's all about player development.
Just loves ball.
Yeah.
And if you hear him in an interview, he's like, was asked recently, what do you like to do outside of football? He's like, bro, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, if I'm not playing football, I'm squatting.
Yeah, and honestly, I hate how much that I just respect him. Like, I want to shit all over the guy. I really do. Like, I'm not a fan of the Eagles franchise or their fan base for pretty obvious reasons if you pay attention to the NFL. But like, every time I see him out on the field, I'm like, God damn it, dude, no one fucking stops him. Anytime the field's down, like they're downfield and it gets crowded, he's just gone. And he takes up all the yards on his feet.
Yep.
So they're
Which
never
is
not
obviously valuable for fantasy football.
I agree.
Anyways, keeping the show rolling. Andrew, who is your first my guy?
I'm going to approach this from a fantasy football standpoint.
Yes.
This is a guy I have been plucking at the end of 6 and round 7, Dalvin Cook. I'm a huge fan of Dalvin Cook because of the value. This is a guy that's stepping into a starting role. Yes, I know Breece Hall is there, but he's coming off an ACL injury. He's not really. Has he been cleared to practice yet?
He is cleared to practice.
Yeah.
He is practicing. They're both back at practice, both
Okay.
cleared from Dalvin Cook's respective surgery from his shoulder. Yes.
Now, I expect Breece Hall to kind of take a bigger load near the end of the year. He'll be the winter soldier. But early on, I expect Dalvin Cook to put up pretty big numbers. When the pass rush comes, he's a good pass catcher. He's able to find holes. He's going to be the goal line back. Like
Aaron Rodgers dumps off to his running back more than any other player in the NFL.
I think he's just going to be a good player to have to get you started. Or if you weren't trying to go for a 5-1, 6-0 start, I think Dalvin Cook is going to be your man.
He'll definitely get you in the playoffs, and I think the ceiling for Dalvin Cook is he just maintains that starting role, which I think is entirely possible. I think that's the most likely outcome out, honestly. So I like You're My Guy more than you like You're My Guy. Where you're getting him in fantasy football drafts right now is just disrespectful. He got paid a bigger contract than anybody else this offseason outside of
McCaffrey.
No. Outside of Saquon,
Josh Jacobs and
Josh
Tony Pollard. Well, he took the tag, right?
Tony took the tag.
That's
yeah,
10
so
mil. It's 10
that's
mil,
more
yeah.
money.
Yeah.
That's more money. Yeah, so you're right.
Yeah.
So the fourth highest paid running back this offseason, Aaron Rodgers literally took a pay cut for the guy. Who's in charge in New York? Is it Robert Salah or is it Aaron Rodgers?
It's Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, that's that LeBron conversation, like when he's on the team, like, yeah, of course it's going to go through the hierarchy, but Aaron Rodgers is definitely going to be a big
I'm sure
final
Bob
stamp.
Salah is in on those conversations. That's Aaron Rodgers' team. He's running the show. He took a pay cut to get Dalvin Cook on board. What division was Dalvin Cook in while
NFC
North?
Yeah.
Your division.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the same division as the Packers. My point is Packers.
Yeah.
And they play each other twice a year. Aaron Rodgers sees Dalvin Cook twice a year, right? So there's a reason he's there. And I just think he's just going to be the number one there, and Breece is just going to take a red shirt, right? Like basically an injury red shirt where he's going to play. He's going to get maybe 40% of the snaps, and Dalvin's probably going to get 60.
I mean, besides Adrian Peterson, which running back have we seen bounce back from ACL injury and just look 90% of what he did? Usually they're like a step slow or they're a little gingerly.
Saquon did it close. And if not just about as well as AP did, but it's still like AP had just literal that explosiveness that you only see once every 10 years.
Yeah, there's so many red flags on Breece Hall, and there's so many green flags on Dalvin Cook, like the contract, the investment from the team, the personnel, what the coaches think of him. There's so many green flags on him, and granted, it is unknown because we haven't seen him actually play on that team in preseason.
Yeah.
But what are we talking about? Who the fuck cares? Like, it's Dalvin Cook. It's not like he's on his, like maybe he's on the downturn of his career, not like he's super old. He's 27 years old.
Yeah.
He
actually
is
just turned 28.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, he just turned 20.
I think, unless he just turned 27, but I think he just
Either
turned
way, late 20s, not 30 yet.
Mm-hmm.
Performed extremely well last year. We saw massive highlights of him breaking off massive runs again with behind a mediocre Minnesota Vikings at best offensive line.
Same 5 starting up front,
and he was still half PPR running back 8 last season. So like, why? What are we talking about? Anyways, I don't want to give away any future predictions I have, so let's keep it moving with my second my guy. This is half a Jordan Love believer pick. This is half of a Christian Watson believer pick. Okay. I believe that Christian Watson will be the number 1 wide receiver there. He's got a great number 2 to avoid double teams with Romeo Doubs, so I think is also at a massive value this season. You do have to pay up for Christian Watson, but I think he is a guy who, again, has a top 5 wide receiver overall in fantasy football this year. He had the highest scoring points per route run, fantasy points per route run last season out of any receiver, not out of rookies, out of any receiver in the NFL last season. He is a freak athlete with his size to speed ratio is just off the charts. He produced well with Aaron Rodgers last year. On Aaron Rodgers, let's be real, his worst season of his career, he had a fractured thumb in his throwing hand, and he was not accurate. He was not efficient in any way. Christian Watson dropped a bomb to start the season with Aaron Rodgers and still earned his trust and respect enough to still be his number one target when he was on the field. He had injuries in the preseason. Last year was a muddy mess, and there's no way he should have produced like he produced. And that is why Christian Watson is my second guy for this fantasy football season. Mr. Andrew, what do you think about Christian Watson?
I love it. When I watch him play and I see his highlights, he reminds me of one player besides the hands. His hands are kind of iffy, but I'll live with it because he can produce like Josh Gordon 2012. This is a guy who can take short drag routes, screen routes, reverses, and take it to the house. He's a burner, but he's also just extremely athletic. He finds those holes and he just explodes through it. He's like 2 rockets up his ass. Like, this guy is him.
Absolutely. Mr. Caleb B. Davis.
No, I mean, honestly, I agree. I think this entire new season is going to be just a light on a lot of young talent that we had a lot of organizations last year in shambles.
Second-year wide receivers, they always break out.
Just Aaron Rodgers was already kind of on an iffy term with Green Bay before he was out. So him sticking around was more of a favor to them more than anything. So, I mean, we're going to see a lot of things from that organization specifically. It's going to be very exciting.
And we are less than a week away from
we
season,
really
boys.
are.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. By the way, we will be live streaming Thursday Night Football watch party with us. Mystery Science Theater 3000 style, just sitting around. I'll probably commentate the actual game. So I'll probably actually be like speaking for the most part. And yeah, we'll just be reacting to the game, having a good old fashioned time. So we're also excited about that. Caleb B. Davis, is it your turn?
Yep.
Who's your second my guy?
My second my guy is the tight end in New York, the Giants, Darren Waller. I am so excited for Darren Waller because this is the most complicated thing for me to explain, and I don't always have a lot of sense behind my opinions anyways. Derek Carr, I was a fan of in Las Vegas or Oakland, depending on when you were a fan and where you reside. Him and Darren Waller were able to make connections that are very respectable in a quarterback to tight end, similar to like Romo and a Witten. I loved seeing it, but there was still something missing enough from that organization where Waller had such a low ceiling. And now that he's in an organization that arguably has overall a lower ceiling, I think the Giants are another one of those teams where, you know, what they've been doing is compiling a group of dogs, right? And so now they're trying to work out some kinks. It's not going to be easy, first 3 to 5 weeks for them. But Darren Waller's all Daniel Jones has until Jalen Hyatt gets his shit together. Saquon can move the ball down the field. He's a tank, right? I want to see this Panzer on the field right here, just chugging along, taking the ball and getting some YAC action in Darren Waller. I believe in him to do that this season.
Yep, I love it. And why not? He seems like he'll probably be the number one target. He'll probably be like the Travis Kelce, like the diet Travis Kelce this season, just in terms of volume. Obviously, a great talent. I mean, comparing anybody to Travis Kelce is just kind of rude just in general, but he is a fantastic athlete and I think a great pick. A guy who's going to have all the opportunity, and it's a great value where you're getting him in fantasy football drafts.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Andrew, what do you think?
I mean, he has a history of just going nuclear, being tied in 2 or 3. I remember a couple of years ago, he played the Ravens on Monday night, and I think he had 28 fantasy points by halftime, just cooking. So in a stable organization, a good quarterback, good offensive coordinator, he will definitely eat
a lot of targets. Hell yeah. Mr. Andrew, what is your second my guy for fantasy
went with
football?
Dalvin Cook, the old bull. So now I'm going to swing back around and go with the young bull, James Cook. Once again, I'm all in the Cook brothers.
I love it. I get it.
Right. We're talking about a guy now you're picking up late 7th, 8th round. Yes, he plays for the Bills. Yes, Josh Allen eats a lot of the short yardage touchdowns.
By the way, James Cook starting running back for the Bills, if you don't know.
Yes.
Yep.
Which is a bold. Anyways, go ahead, Andrew.
I'm not sold on Gabe Davis. I'm not sold on any of their wide receivers. I think he's going to be a nice little target hog, going short, screens, and then move around the slot, picking up whatever big plays he can. And I think he's the guy out there. They're going to be a high-scoring offense, and I want a piece of James Cook in the 7th or 8th round, I'll take that over the corpse of DeAndre Hopkins or Michael Thomas or whatever's left of his ankle.
Yeah.
Okay, man. I disagree. I'm not on James Cook. This is the first my guy I'm not on at all. I think just like for the reasons, the concerns that you presented, like granted, you are right. He does have a high ceiling in terms of like touchdowns this season, just because he does play for the Bills. But I mean, I know Josh Allen said he's not going to run the ball as much anymore. Like that's not in Josh Allen's nature. It's not in his blood.
It's not his instinct.
I think it's going to be more of a committee than we would like, just volume wise, for Mr. James Cook. I do like him as a talent, but I don't think the opportunity he's going to have competing with guys like Stephon Diggs for touchdowns and targets is going to have quite the ceiling that I like in a my guy. But putting your name,
I'm telling you, I think he is a light Tony Pollard. He doesn't need full rep scheme. He has 3 rockets up his ass, and he's going to be getting the big plays.
Okay. Caleb, what do you think about that?
I mean, I'd love to believe it, and I could definitely see it. I could see it, especially, 2 different individuals, but having Dalvin Cook on my squad for as long as I have, I honestly thought he might actually sign in Buffalo and tag up with his brother and then make, some Super Bowl runs together in this last offseason. Obviously, we know that was not what ended up happening. With him holding that RB1 spot in Buffalo and them being just such a dynamic team that runs really well together, I'm a big believer in the fact if a team can just move the ball their first possession of the game and hopefully score a touchdown, that momentum is so hard to drive or to stop off on. And so, I mean, James Cook, if Buffalo can take 2 touchdown or even a 10-point lead on another team, you're going to be getting a lot of touches, just killing clock.
Yep.
So,
always
I could buy in on it.
Always good to have a fantasy asset who's on a good team. So that is a good point, especially if it's a running back, like you said, trying to close out end of games. Going on to our next. Oh, I have a bonus my guy. Do you guys have a third my guy? A bonus my guy, just me?
I don't have one, but I can hype yours up with you because I bet I can vibe with it.
So I was a short bonus my guy. I like Christian Watson. I also like Christian Kirk. I love if I can get the Christian brothers on a fantasy football team. The reason I like Christian Kirk is because he was fantasy football wide receiver 12 or 13 last season, depending on your platform's points, your league's point system. He is maybe a number 2, probably I would say more of like a 1A, 1B situation with Calvin Ridley, who you are buying at absolutely Calvin Ridley's ceiling. I think where Calvin Ridley is being drafted right now is his ceiling. I think that's also Christian Kirk's ceiling, and you do not have to draft him nearly as deep down. Granted, maybe his ultimate ceiling is a little bit capped, like to maybe where he was last year with like wide receiver 13 or 14.
Yeah.
But man, are you just getting a screaming value on Christian Kirk, a guy who the team paid. And I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I just think Christian Kirk is just an insane value. So that's my bonus, my guy, going with the Christian brothers. You guys love it, right?
Yep.
Love it.
Yep.
Great. Well, that's all we got to say about Christian Kirk. Moving on. Oh, and his quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, good at football?
Yeah, he is good at football.
We can agree on that as well.
Last time I asked somebody else, they told me yes too. So.
Next, what we are going to go to is offensive and defensive rookie of the year for our season predictions. I went first last time. I will let Andrew select if we are going to talk defensive or offensive rookie of the year first. And Caleb, you will go first. Andrew, where are we starting, offense or defense?
Let's go offense.
Okay, offensive rookie of the year. Who is your offensive rookie of the year prediction, Mr. Caleb B. Davis?
So I'm going to not say this because of the fact we've already heard his name just 5 billion times overall over the episodes of this podcast, but I have a lot of faith bought in on Mr. Bijan Robinson. Yeah.
Who is also we did not talk about this before the show. We kept these secret with each other. Also my offensive rookie of the year. You go first, Caleb. Why do you love Bijan?
This was Jamie's secret way of still going first. No, I'm just joking. No, okay. Yes, we did not talk about this beforehand. I don't know what's on their paper. They don't know what's on my paper. But I do think that he is the saving grace for the Atlanta football team. I'm going to call them that because I think if he had not been drafted when he was, they may have been relocating possibly to a safer neighborhood outside of the state of Georgia.
Smart.
And, maybe...
Hope he doesn't get Brian Robinson this weekend.
Yeah, I really hope he does not get BR'd.
Lock him in the facility.
Yeah. Also a great stack to have, the 2 B Robinsons, because in the sleeper platform, it has the first
name,
letter.
initial, yeah.
So you don't know which one I'm throwing out there. I could be Bijan, could be Brian. You have to look into the team name.
Stay up to date on your news, right?
Yeah. Brian Robinson, that was the number 1 rushing offense last season. I think the running backs last season were very below average in terms of their skill. Their production was above average because of the offensive scheme and that offensive line. I think they will serve marginal competition to Bijan Robinson. And he's a pass catcher. He's more dynamic than either of those guys combined,
Mm-hmm.
I love Bijan Robinson. I also love Brian Robinson, but I love Bijan Robinson, and I'm taking him. Well, RIP to Cooper Kupp, hamstring injury. I am taking him. Also, never mind. Anyways, I am taking him like right behind. I was taking him right behind Cooper Kupp, and now after Cooper Kupp injury, I'm taking him extremely early, sometimes before Jamar Chase. I said sometimes before Jamar Chase. Don't tell anybody that, but deal with it. I'm not sorry about it. Yeah, I am taking Christian McCaffrey over him, but he honestly has just as good of a chance to finish running back 1 this season as Christian McCaffrey, I think, with his maybe decreased role. Andrew, what do you think about our...
I mean, this is an offense that turned Cordell Patterson into like a top 7 running back 2 years ago.
Yep.
It probably would have been last year if not injuries. Algier came on strong, but these are like pretty solid players, but not elite athletes like Bijan Robinson.
Yes.
I've said in past episodes, Tyler Algier runs like somebody in Madden whose controller is broken and he can't juke. He just runs straight ahead. He's fast. He can break tackles, but he's not going to wow you athletically. And I've also said this with Cordell Patterson as a guy who had him on his fantasy football team 2 years ago when he had his big boom season at the age of like 49 or however old he is. You watching him, it's like you're just like sitting on the edge of your seat. Like, man, this incredible production that he's experiencing, Cordell Patterson, is just so unsustainable.
Yes.
It's just not just because of what his athleticism is at this point of his career. He's just in a great situation. Same thing with Tyler Algier and Cordell Patterson last year. And I think just Bijan is going to hit the ground running and sky's the limit for him. So that's why he could just literally just win you a fantasy football championship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He could just score 26 points a game. That's just something that can happen with Bijan Robinson, which is why I love him as my offensive rookie of the year as well. Great pick, Mr. Caleb. Andrew, who is your offensive rookie of
I
the
am
year?
going with Anthony the Freak Richardson.
Yes, thank you.
That's
good,
a good one.
This is a guy who's going to play on probably the second worst team in the league. Definitely the most dysfunctional team in the league.
Yeah.
So at some point, I could see him just going full Wildcat for running spread out. He's going to run for a touchdown.
He looks absolutely insane in preseason.
Right. I mean, his passing is like kind of not great, but then
accuracy, but his arm is in. I didn't realize. Right. I mean, I guess I watched his film from college, but his arm looks better.
Yeah, he's throwing like 60-yard dimes.
Which makes sense because he's 21 years old. Yeah. So maybe, of course, he's a better athlete at the age of 21 than he is at 20. Anyways, keep going, Andrew. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
So he has huge rushing potential, which we all know in fantasy is able to turn a mediocre passer into a top half quarterback. So yeah, I love him. He has just huge garbage time potential this year. I'm loving it.
That's a great.
I'm buying him up.
His stats, I love him in fantasy. In fantasy football, he would be like almost like he's not getting drafted quite as early as I would like out of like a true sleeper candidate, but he would definitely fit more into a sleeper. Anthony Richardson was my first instinct. The only thing that got me off of it and got me on Bijan more is if the Atlanta Falcons lose like the Jets lost last year, they didn't win very many games last year. And Garrett Wilson won Offensive Rookie of the Year last year, right? The people in charge are going to judge a quarterback a lot more for those losses than they will judge a running back or a wide receiver than the Breece Hall or a Garrett Wilson. Like, yeah, that offense wasn't great as a whole, but those guys were. So numbers, I think, transfer over a lot better just voting wise for running backs. And that's why I like Bijan Robinson. But yeah, I think especially fantasy football wise, Anthony Richardson is just amazing. And probably now knowing if we were to redraft a super flex dynasty draft right now, rookie draft, Anthony Richardson go 1.1, right?
Easy.
Right? Over maybe Bijan, maybe you take Bijan over him, but definitely first quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And I think he was third quarterback in our league that got drafted. Pretty insane. Looking back and thinking like, yeah, maybe we just take the freak athlete over the 5'6" guy who's going to not produce this year because he's on a shitty team with a backup offensive line. Anyways, love that pick. I guess I will go first, if that's all right with y'all, for defensive rookie of the year. Mm-hmm. My defensive rookie of the year is none other than second round draft pick, Brian Branch of the Detroit Lions corner. We saw him just a little bit in the preseason, and that's all the coaches needed, and they shut him down. Lions did not play much of their starters after week 1 in the preseason, and he just flew off the film in college, and then he went right into his first preseason game, looked the exact same. The reason I think he's a great defensive rookie of the year candidate is because this guy is going to be a highlight factory. And that's important when it comes to predicting these things because the voters are going to look at these highlights. They're not going to watch every play of every game. Yeah. Almost nobody does that in real life. They're going to look at the stats. They're going to look at the highlights. They're going to be like, holy shit, this guy has 5 interceptions and look at all these massive tackles he makes because that guy comes flying in just to take people's heads off. A Dan Campbell guy. I think I just think the sky's the limit for that Lions defense in that division. Because if there might be the only team with the defense in that division this upcoming season. and for all those other reasons, I think he's just a prime candidate just to be a breakout defensive rookie of the year candidate. Any thoughts on Brian Branch?
I think that's a pretty solid pick. Because Detroit, especially in their secondary, dude.
Added CJGJ and so he was supposed to be
hurt, right?
Who's that? No, he's fine.
No,
okay.
Yeah, he had like a scare early on in camp.
Okay.
But he was fine.
And he was okay. Yeah, like he missed a bigger injury, right? Okay, that's right.
They also picked up Mosley from the 49ers.
Yep,
that's right.
Cornerback coming off ACL surgery, but no, they redid their whole secondary. I like this.
Yeah.
Brian Branch is just a super freak athlete. Should have gone first round. Was at the draft. Stayed for day 2, which I was impressed. Good character guy. Guy I'm excited to see strap it up in a real football game in less than a week. Caleb B. Davis, I'll let you go next. Who is your defensive rookie of the year pick?
My defensive rookie of the year pick, Jalen Carter.
Yep. Ooh, brilliant.
Jalen Carter.
Love it.
And not because I'm an Eagles fan in a Vikings jersey. I'm not. I fucking hate the Eagles.
Was your guy Jalen Hurts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just love the name Jalen. Like my no. So I mean, he was one of those guys that was top 5 pick no matter what. Like it really didn't matter. It didn't seem like even with his legal stuff going on, which is horrific, but outside of the game of football, I do still think he has just that dog. That Georgia Bulldog, Jalen Carter.
Yep, I love it. Freak athlete. Did not show it in the combine whatsoever. Probably should not have, or will have got like arrested or whatever in the combine. And then looked really bad on his pro day. Was concerning, character concerns. Obviously going through some things. Guess what? He got drafted to the perfect team. In the Philadelphia Eagles, they have a great leadership program there in that defensive line room.
Yep.
And also, I just think I'm a believer in Sirianni in terms of just like you don't hear about issues.
See, out of that Sirianni doesn't look like he can do simple math, but he is a smart football guy.
He's a good leader.
You can't argue about that.
And I think Jalen Carter is just that kind of freak athlete and a guy that I think can really splash this year and a great pick for your defensive rookie of the year. Andrew, Absolutely. You're next. Who's your defensive rookie of the year?
I'm going with Will McDonald from the Jets.
Okay.
He's a big rush in, which I love. Because,
first round pick?
Yeah, first round pick. 14th or 15th overall.
Mm-hmm.
But playing that Salah defense, he's going to get a lot of opportunities to rush the quarterback. This is a guy I think has double-digit sack potential. and the fact on Hard Knocks he has multiple facial piercings, which probably doesn't jive while wearing a helmet, but that tells me he feels no pain. Give me more stock.
I love it. He's definitely getting the opportunity there. I haven't seen. His college football tape didn't get me as excited for this upcoming season as our previous 2 picks.
Mm-hmm.
But a definite dark horse candidate, probably odds really bad, like really high payoff in terms of grabbing Will McDonald. Was already featured on Hard Knocks, so people kind of know who he is already. That gives him kind of a jump up in the voting procedure, although getting all those weird piercings, I don't know if the voters are going to like that or not. But anyways, I love your couple of bold picks out of Andrew on this episode so far. And then for our next segment, we are going to go to our fantasy football busts and fantasy football sleepers for this upcoming NFL season. I guess we'll start with our busts, right? I'll lead the way. I'm going to set the tone for this episode. My fantasy football bust for this season is Travis Etienne.
Ooh.
I think that organization has virtually no ties to Etienne. The reason we like him is because he's a great athlete and because he has a very high draft capital. Mm-hmm. He has had an injury already in his career, and just the way this team is talking about Tank Bigsby and how much they love this guy and how much he's just a perfect fit for the team. He's, in my opinion, obviously going to become probably just game one, the goal line back, stealing valuable snaps from ETN. And I think it's just going to be more of a committee than our ETN fantasy owners are really willing to admit right now. And Tank Bigsby, on the other hand, is just as much of a freak athlete as ETN. I'm sorry. Like, he looked unbelievable, maybe didn't produce as well as other prospects, but he went to Auburn. He didn't have an offensive line. And just from what I've seen in the preseason already, he's just going to be that explosive guy for Jacksonville. And as the season goes on, kind of what people are hoping we get out of Breece Hall, I think we're more likely to see that out of Tank Bigsby, if I'm entirely honest.
I could definitely.
ETN, my number one bust. With all due respect, I do think he is a good talent. I don't think people are giving Tank enough credit, and I don't think people really realize the situation, the opportunity that might be taken away from ETN and given to Tank Bigsby from this organization that doesn't give a fuck about him.
We need to look at the numbers from Jacksonville from last season, the goal line, but I feel like they were very inefficient. Yeah. I watched a lot of games where they really had to go for fourth and goal because they couldn't punch it in. So big.
Yep, more mouths to feed there too. He's ETN has never really been. That's the other thing. Has never really been the receiving back that we've wanted him to become in the NFL compared to what he was in college, and he's going to have to start competing with Calvin Ridley on that offense for targets, and that's really why you're drafting ETN as high as you are, is because you're expecting him to catch all these passes, and I'm like, I don't even know he's going to get that many touches.
Yeah.
Right? So that's my main concern with ETN. Who wants to go next?
I got to take. It's so hot. It's
let's go.
It's gonna burn the house down.
Let's go. You want to get the button out? You want to get the button out? It's sitting right over there.
What's the button? What's this?
Go ahead. Start your take.
Okay. My 2023 fantasy football bust is no other than Jamar Chase. This is a guy who
look at us.
Right.
Look at us.
This
go
is
ahead.
a guy who people are taking number 1 or number 2 or number 3 overall in drafts. And I'm just saying, like, the production won't be there. You're expecting him to get 130 plus catches.
He's never done it.
1,600 plus yards, and maybe over 14 touchdowns. It's not happening.
Just scroll down.
You are blowing your pick. You're blowing your wad on a guy who will not happen. It won't happen. It just won't happen.
Keep going. Yeah, where is Jamar Chase on this list?
He's
disappeared.
Like
Type him in.
Okay.
You'll have to find him. Oh, you know why? Because this is not the ADP for last year.
Oh,
it's the
gotcha.
ADP for it's the total points from last year. So that's why Jamar Chase is buried so far down on the list.
Look, and I understand he had a hip injury last year, missed some games, but
that's also calculated into it because we haven't seen Justin Jefferson get injured, which granted, so your argument is that he should be going kind of more towards the middle or the end of the first round.
I would rather have Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, and even CD Lamb over Jamar Chase.
What about AJ Brown? Taking AJ Brown
I
or
would take
Jamar
AJ
Chase?
Brown over Jamar Chase.
With everything that we said about the Eagles already this episode.
There's a higher ceiling. AJ Brown's a higher ceiling than Jamar Chase.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a guy who, as a rookie, don't forget, blew up on 2 games where he went over 200 plus yards. Yes, just
won you 2 weeks.
But you look at the rest of the season, it's he's a man guy.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase, I'm probably taking him late first round. He's going early first, and I think this is just people getting confused about their format. Yeah. This is he is a dynasty pick.
Yeah.
He's 23 years old. He's a superstar freak athlete. I'm still taking Justin Jefferson 10 times out of 11, 10 times out of 9.
If you took Garrett Wilson over Jamar Chase, I salute you. That's a better pick. It's a better offense. It's a better setup. I'm just saying,
he's got more competition there too with the other
T. Higgins. You got
Tyler
Boyd.
Yeah.
And then even
high rushing. I mean, they're going to hand the ball. I think they're going to hand the ball off a lot this season again.
I think the division's substantially tougher. The Steelers are going to be coming on.
And as what I'm expecting on the Browns defense to look like, it's going to be not a pretty time. Also a Midwest team plays outdoors, which you do have to calculate and go to his. Can you pull up his? Never mind. His season. What his season is going to look like this year, whatever.
Oh yeah, his predictions.
His schedule. Actually, I think you're on it. Go down to the end.
Yeah, I switched it to last year's. Here we go.
Go to 2023 and then scroll on down. Let's see where Jamar Chase is going to be playing in the fantasy football playoffs. Keep going and down to what is 17, 16, 15, 16, 17. Minnesota, he's indoors, and then he's playing at Pittsburgh and at Kansas City in Missouri in late December.
Also home
early
against
January.
Cleveland. Outside stadium again.
They
don't even have a practice facility in Cincinnati.
Yeah, if your fantasy football championship is week 18, assuming one of those teams hasn't already won the division. So that's interesting. So they're going to start.
Very true.
They're going to start Bengals Cleveland, and then they're going to end Bengals Cleveland. That's interesting. Yeah. So also have to just factor in weather into the situation. If you're taking your first round draft pick, you need that draft pick to produce for you in the playoffs. RIP. Well, I mean that's your only hope if you are stuck with as many shares of Cooper Kupp as I am, who probably would have been one of my guys on this episode if he hadn't re-aggravated his hamstring this week. Yeah, I think Jamar Chase is just super overblown, and probably what we're paying is a Super Bowl tax. We're paying a tax on a guy we've seen play in the Super Bowl. The same reason I think we're having Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce be drafted so high this season is because they won the Super Bowl.
It's the same reason you see those little kids wear all their jerseys. Yep. You see little booger kids grittying in Target, over a Lego set. Get over yourself.
I love that bust pick. Caleb, are you up?
I am.
Okay, what's your bust? Is this your first bust, right?
This is
your first bust candidate for this.
So
for this
my
season.
2023 bust player of the year is Jonathan Taylor.
Okay.
And
that's fair. I don't know if it's entirely
warranted
cheating or not, but go ahead.
I'm frustrated with Jonathan Taylor and the situation he's in. I know all the running backs are frustrated to be in the position that they're in. I don't blame them, especially when you're a workhorse who's been in a god-awful organization since they convinced your young quarterback to retire in Indianapolis, being Andrew Luck. Having somebody that has a talent like Jonathan Taylor and has never had the outlet or a team that's actually given him what his value is worth in terms of the production that he does, because you are the offense for the Indianapolis Colts whenever Mo Alley Cox can't take a little bubble route touchdown pass when you're on the goal line and your fat ass can't get in the end zone. So, I know he requested a trade. I know it's still a possibility. Maybe he gets traded, even though Indianapolis is
starting the season. He is starting the season on the PUP list, but I just reminded myself of my second bust pick, so I will accept this as totally fair. Yeah, even where he's going now, he's just, even barring this contract dispute, I was actually higher on Jonathan Taylor when I thought he was going to get traded. Because he's going to be on an offense with Anthony Richardson, who's going to take up a lot of the rushing opportunities and a lot of the touchdown opportunities on the ground from Jonathan Taylor. He's not a guy who I'm really expecting to produce through the air, especially with a rookie quarterback who's highly mobile. Because a rookie quarterback who's highly mobile, instead of doing a little 5-yard dump off, he'd rather just take off for 10 or 15 yards, get the automatic first down, and just take the guesswork out of the simple pass out of the equation. So even barring the PUP list, I think it's just a guy who was off my draft board to start the season. And then with all this bullshit contract negotiation stuff, a guy that I'm just absolutely totally off of. I'm not on with Jonathan Taylor as well.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I do think he's warranted the respect. It's not to be disrespectful to players like Jonathan Taylor or Patrick Mahomes.
Well, I think he also had a horrible season last year, just in terms of not even just production, just how he looked. It wasn't what you
were accustomed to. And it wasn't even like James Conner-esque, where, all right, now he's playing for Arizona after Pittsburgh. It's like, but Jonathan Taylor's like being a stinker about things. Starting off on the PUP list, you're missing at least 4 games. That's whether or not you do play for Indianapolis. I just don't want you on my team. I don't like sitting people on my team and thinking, I hope this pans out for me in the long run. I would rather take someone who's healthy, who's in a promising situation, the same age, or maybe even a year or two older, like a Dalvin Cook, and have more stock invested in you later on in my draft, rather than take you within the first 2 rounds and then be fucked for weeks 1 through 4.
And honestly, even in Dynasty, I'm just like, if that's why this is a great bust pick, because it's just like a bust pick for this year and for his future.
For him.
He's a stinker. He's either not healthy or he's holding out. That's disappointing to his team. I think I saw a video of him trying to give a high five to Gardner Minshew in practice when he was holding out still or just injured or whatever. And Gardner Minshew just stone cold him and just like moving on, man. I think you just sell on Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor's like the Ben
Simmons. Get him off your roster. Take what you can get. If you can get like a couple of second round rookie draft picks for Jonathan Taylor, just get him off your roster, and just kind of try and sell that he'll be on the Dolphins or the Eagles, which I just don't think is what we're going to see with this guy. And just a guy who just didn't look good this past season. So I love him as a bust pick. My next bust is also starting the season injured. So it's a little bit unfair to him, but I've also been heavily fading him even pre-draft. And the situation has just gotten worse and worse for him, just based on where he got drafted and now with this injury. Jackson Smith and Jigma, my second pick, JSN, my second pick to be a bust for this upcoming season. Still, I think just a confusion with formats too. If you want to take him as the first wide receiver in a rookie draft or in a dynasty startup draft, I think that's fine. That's fine if that's what you want to do. It's not necessarily what I would do, because I like a lot more guy. I like a few more guys a little bit more than him going up even pre-draft. He got drafted to the Seattle Seahawks, where we have superstar Jake Bobo playing. That was a joke.
I mean, no, I know that one's a joke, but at this point, I know he's sold on JSN, and now JSN also is having the wrist injury. Like, I hate injuries. I know it's only natural. I know it's a part of the game, but like as soon as those things start getting involved, then you start seeing players that are like Percy Harvin sitting out for migraines. And
when have we seen a preseason injury pan out well, right?
Exactly.
We've seen like people get injured, rehab, and then, work through rehab in the preseason.
Exactly.
And then like Adrian Peterson come back. We've seen that, but we've never really seen the guy who like popped a hamstring in the final preseason game and then just have a great fantasy football season. We've never seen it happen before. And JSN, he is competing, of course, with Tyler Lockett. He is competing with DK Metcalf, who's a guy you were super high on. Tyler Lockett, a guy I'm super high on. I had to be.
He fell to me in the draft, or I sold on him early. One of the two I don't remember, and I also don't want to, go back too far and recant and then have to justify. But I do have him on my team. Yeah.
Yeah. I believe you took him in like the third or fourth round of a 12-team PPR point for first round draft or something like that. But yeah, JSN, not a guy, with all due respect to him, not like a top 3 guy in terms of a talent coming into the season. I know he produced extremely well in college, and
didn't even play last year.
Yeah, and his teammates hyped him up, and I think his teammates are a lot better than him. He's just a guy who has built a massive name for himself in leading up to the NFL draft, and I think that's why he's going early. And a guy in redraft is just absolutely ridiculous, where guys like Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, even Michael Wilson, even Jonathan Mingo, just guys that are just going to get more targets, guys whose, ceilings are higher, floors are higher. And just because we think he is a superstar prospect, we aren't really realizing the situation he's in. It's not like we're getting reports from camp like, oh, he's won the starting role like magically. He's just that good. It's just not something that's going to happen. And I think best case scenario is he's like maybe starts producing towards the end of the season. Maybe there's an injury where Tyler Lockett doesn't get touched. DK Metcalf's a freak athlete. Not necessarily guys we're worried about getting injured. Like maybe like even like a Quentin Johnston type guy who's a 3rd string, 4th string guy on the team right now, package guy on the team right now.
Exactly.
His starting wide receivers are brittle, and he could just week 3 be the number 2 wide receiver for a super high powered Chargers offense, and a guy that they really needed. And that's why they drafted him as a depth piece, Quentin Johnston.
That was, I think, such a value pick for them in the draft. Like really it was. Like I'm not gonna lie, I'm not high on TCU receivers. I really was interested to see where he was going to go, and I was willing to just kind of let him go and just let him do him and then be like, great, or man, he gave it a shot. Either way, Quentin Johnston, but then watching his film and watching him and how he really does pair up like a Mike Williams talent. It's like, dude, Keenan Allen, you've only got so many more sunrises as an NFL talent. I think the same thing as Austin Eckler.
Keenan Allen healthy to start the season?
He is, and so is Austin Eckler. I know he hasn't really been plagued too poorly by an injury bug, but I know, he's an NFL running back. So they're
keeps himself in impeccable shape though.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I think that's something that I've really realized, and y'all just made me think about it on this show, which is great that I do have to bring up. Something that I've realized in the near past is guys who are just gym rats end up being durable running backs, and it's a lot less a size thing, and it's a lot more of just a guy who squats a lot. Yeah. Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler, guys who have been able to buck that 26-year-old running back cliff.
Yep.
All super gym rats, and something that we need to pay attention to in the future. Like even if it's a smaller guy like JSN or Bijan, if we start seeing them do one-arm pull-ups on Instagram, it's like, that can be kind of like, oh, that's just hype.
Yeah.
But no, that's, see Nick Chubb squatting 600 pounds on a tsunami bar that's designed to be a shitty back squat bar. It's designed to be the hardest form of a back squat. Like, for example, that would probably put his 1 rep max, if he ever tested it out, in the 800 or 900 pound range, legit squat. Nick Chubb and Austin Eckler, a guy who's just been super durable his whole career. Crazy. So yeah, anyways, JSN, that's my second bust pick. Who's up next?
Me. I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp. I know super vanilla.
Yeah.
I was hoping to avoid this, but now that I saw that he went to go check with a body specialist to see why he was re-aggravating his hamstring, I stay away. He's got 2 strikes against him. He's white, and he has a hamstring injury, and he plays wide receiver. I'm sorry. I'm not a racist. I'm just speaking facts.
Yeah.
So are you at all excited? Yeah. So anyways, to cover the hamstring injury, yes, very disappointed. Cooper Kupp would have been one of my guys if he hadn't strained his hamstring this weekend or whatever. Probably not going to start the season. I'm honestly just at a point now where I'm just like, just put him on IR. Just let me use him later on. Good news is I have a lot of Van Jefferson and a lot of Puka Nacua, rookie wide receiver. Did he go to Utah? Is that right, Puka? Does anybody know? Anyways, you can look.
A name like that, I would assume yes.
PUK.
He should pop up. Yeah, I was about to say.
Puka.
I hope there's not many people with a PU.
BYU.
Okay,
Close
so
enough.
I knew he was a Mormon. That's all. That's all. I was like, I know he's a Mormon. I just don't know which Mormon school he went to. But Puka Nacua, shined in camp. Already reports that he's going to be a bona fide starter with Cooper Kupp even on the roster. He's gonna earn his role there. We do still have Matt Stafford, and that's all I need. In Matt Stafford, I trust, and a guy who has supported wide receivers in his whole career.
He really
with
has.
Calvin Johnson, and we used to call him Old Pat Stafford for a while there in Detroit because the team was just so bad that he would just produce kind of shitty for the first half or whatever, and then his coach would just be like, all right, fuck it, let's stop running the ball for 0 yards every single time and just let Stafford just run the offense, and he would put up 300 yards in the second half, and and you would just check the stat line because you would stop watching the game after the first half when the Lions were down by 30 points and like, oh, they came back within 2 scores, and Matt Stafford put up another 330 yards and 3 touchdown game, and nobody really watched it, nobody really cared about it. And he can honestly get that connection with Mr. Puka. And I'm assuming a Hawaiian man over there. And I think Cooper Kupp, it is a good pick. I'm glad that you did bring it up. I almost did a second ago. Remember when I said never mind?
Right.
I was going to be like, oh, by the way, not allowed to say Cooper Kupp as your bust pick. And I realized I was like, oh, one of them probably definitely picked him, and I did not remember to bring that up in the pre-show meeting. So brilliant job out of you.
Well, and that leaves me a reminder too. Just since I know this will be posted eventually. Like you said, has there ever been a time where someone's ever aggravated an injury in preseason? There may have been exclusions to that with athletes I can't think about, but
so Keenan Allen,
our job. That's people to get mad at us about and comment and shit all over us. That's what
Keenan
I like.
Allen did have a hamstring injury, and he was a valuable fantasy asset for me on my run to my dynasty fantasy football championship, the one I was referencing earlier, that I had Jalen Hurts in and I had Josh Allen in. So I basically had 0 quarterbacks for my championship, and that's why I lost. But for deep leagues like that, or leagues where your dumb league mates will trade you Garrett Wilson for a first round draft pick. Thank you.
I think the most famous case of someone getting hurt in preseason and then coming out of the wash and blowing it up was OBJ, his rookie season. He missed the first 4 games with a pulled hamstring.
Yeah.
That's what I can think of.
Yeah, and but also being a rookie. Obviously, I don't know how old he was as a rookie. Maybe like 21 years old. Yeah. Now we're dealing with Cooper Kupp, age 30, also white. Yeah. So great pick. Caleb, you're next. What's your next bust pick?
So this is one that I would love to be wrong.
Okay.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay. How does that even count as a bust pick? He's not going drafted. You just think the Raiders are just going to stink?
Hey,
I have to hope that they're not going to. I want the NFL to remain competitive. I don't want there to be just a trash lot team where, a superstar championship team comes in and starts somebody like Chad Henne over Pat Mahomes and then still steamrolls you. I want Jimmy G to have a legitimized NFL quarterback season, no injury, with actual stat line that doesn't have weeks 8 through 12 marked out just because he didn't play. I'd love to see people like Hunter Renfrow who still play for this offense, or Jacoby Myers, or even the other their new or their rookie tight end, or the guy who's filling in for Waller. Mayer.
Sorry.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of people I don't want to see spending Jonathan Taylor years in Las Vegas. I know there's worse places to do it, like Indianapolis. But this guy is on my fantasy team as just like a fringe possible QB2.
So this is your dynasty.
This is my dynasty bust of the season.
Get him off of your roster.
Try to tantalize people with 3-round or 3rd-round picks and a Jimmy G and and
some fab. Yeah, Jimmy G. Dynasty super flex.
Yep.
Caleb's dynasty super flex bust pick of the week, which obviously he just looked through his fantasy football lineup. He's like, I don't want Jimmy G on my team. So I guess I'll accept it. But I'm gonna not allow you to cheat here.
Okay.
Would you be also a redraft bust candidate for number 1 target there, Devontae Adams? Are you concerned about him because of Jimmy Garoppolo?
There's people that are difficult to work with, and Devontae Adams is just one of those talents on a team where like, just stop asking him questions. Don't talk to him and let him go out there and ball, right? But as soon as you want their personality and then you get their personality and then you like don't care for their personality or people try to blow it up, it's like, I hate hearing about it. Like, not that they're not allowed to do it. We poke and prod Devontae Adams and then, then he's like, I want out of Oakland or Las Vegas. And it's like, oh, now he wants to get traded. He's not going to get traded. And, it's just,
he'll end up on the Jets week 8.
This is what Las Vegas has come down to. It is run by Jimmy G, and he's like the circus ringmaster. We'll see Jonathan Taylor end up shipped out here.
Okay. I'll accept that as your bust pick, Caleb B. Davis, and we are going to move on to our sleeper candidates. I have 4 of them. How many do you guys have?
I have 2 and one's biased.
Okay.
I have 2.
You have 2? Okay. I'm going to get my 2 out of the way, and then I have 2 special category ones that I'm going to do later. My number 1 sleeper for this next season in fantasy football is none other than Jalen Warren. I think the backup for now, running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Previously, I was a believer that he is just like kind of like a handcuff back for him. But now we're seeing legitimate people say that Jalen Warren could legitimately win over the starting position in Mike Tomlin's offense. Mike Tomlin, best coach in the NFL right now.
Great
Never
one.
had a losing season.
Never had a losing season. If Jalen Warren gives him a better chance to win than a guy that used a really, really high draft pick in Najee Harris, you think the best coach in the NFL sticks to the guy his GM wants him to stick with? Or do you think he's a guy who is going to put the best guy out
He's going to put the best guy out there.
And I think Jalen Warren is exactly that. He has looked very productive. He's got the size to be a bell cow back. He's got the skill to be a bell cow back. He's a guy who I think in his second season, his first season, just pull up the highlights. He's incredible. He is hurdling people, did not have the draft capital, which is probably why he didn't get the trust last season. But now we've had a whole season to stew on him. And I think he's just going to get the starting position. Jalen Warren over there for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The only cap is how inefficient that offense is going to be, which now that offense might not even be that bad. They look good in preseason.
They looked very
Kenny
good.
Pickett, the best quarterback in preseason by far, just in terms of QBR. Out of anybody who got any sort of volume, which he got plenty of play in the preseason. That offense looks explosive, and I think they could just be good this season. Jalen Warren over there. My second sleeper pick for my regular edition people. Second sleeper, Tyler Conklin, tight end for the Jets. Probably going to be the number 3 target for the Jets. A guy you can get last in a lot of best ball drafts, a guy you can get easily in dynasty leagues. 28 years old. He's produced in the past, again, with this shitty Jets offense. And he's got Aaron Rodgers, who we've already seen him get a target in the preseason, the same amount of targets. I think that Randall Cobb, only got 1. Garrett Wilson got like 14 in 2 drives. And I don't know if Lazard was playing in the preseason.
No, he got hurt.
He's starting the season injured. So basically, who I'm considering my number 3 target for Aaron Rodgers this season, maybe not including Dalvin Cook, because I am so high on Dalvin Cook. So now you guys are starting to see kind of the theme to my picks here. We've seen Aaron Rodgers take mediocre tight ends in Green Bay and turn them into fabulous fantasy football assets just overnight. Robert Tonyan being the most recent example of that. And Tyler Conklin, I think, is on a whole different level. A guy we've seen a lot of hype out of, and a Central Michigan Chippewa.
Yep.
What more do you want out of Tyler Conklin?
Conklin was also an ex-Viking too, another one that Rodgers is familiar with
Yeah, that's right.
NFC North guy. Good point. Good point, Caleb.
So Conklin, he made himself. This is not his first year in New York with the Jets either. This is his second season with the Jets after departing in Minnesota. So he should know this offense very well with the introduction of someone like Aaron Rodgers. So I definitely see him being a great value. Honestly, draft 1 tight end. Don't even think about it again until probably one of your last few picks in the draft where Tyler Conklin's likely still available.
Or depending on your league, if you have really shallow fantasy football rosters, like you got a 12, 13, 14 man roster and you're only rostering 1 tight end, just take a shot at Conklin. He's going to get like 6 touchdowns this season at least.
I
think. Which if you're a tight end, if you got a touchdown, that's like a match winning performance out of your tight end. Any thoughts, Andrew, on either of my sleepers so far, Tyler Conklin or Jalen Warren?
I love Jalen Warren. Watching his highlights this year in preseason, it looks like him and Najee are pulling at 2 different speeds.
Yep.
It's like, you're watching him on fast forward. He's so explosive.
Yeah, I didn't even mention that. Yeah, his preseason, which we covered in a previous episode, his preseason run, he was like one of my favorite second year performances in the preseason week 2, I think, was in that episode. If you want to go back and look at it. But yeah, that run was insane. Yeah. Just him just looking like he does not belong on the field with the guys on that defense.
One thing about Tomlin, though, one back kind of guy.
Yeah.
So if he's tired of Najee getting 2 yards in a cloud of dust, he's gonna go to Warren.
It makes me like him a lot more because he could just be the bell cow.
He could be the difference maker in that offense.
Playoffs, and you're getting him basically in most redraft leagues. He's probably a free agent for you. You can pick him up right now. If you like auto drafted a shitty running back room or you just messed up your redraft, just cut somebody and just stash Jalen Warren.
Like Elijah Dotson. Drop Elijah Dotson for the Los Angeles Chargers. He does not deserve a roster spot on your team.
Is that who they play? Even in a 36-man dynasty?
So
team? Yeah. And also probably for dynasty too, draft. Go ahead and make an offer for Jalen Warren if your teammate or if your league mate is asleep at the wheel, doesn't really see, like, you're just gonna look at the stats. Jalen Warren, just be like, well, why is this guy offering me a 2nd round draft pick for him in the next year's rookie draft? This guy isn't even like good. Like, just kick the tires in a dynasty league on Jalen Warren because he's a sleeper this year. I think he is just at minimum a Madison, where he's just going to inherit that role at some point for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who's next? One of your guys' sleepers.
So my first sleeper, I'll go ahead with the homer pick. I want to get this out of the way and clear the air. I think that KJ Osborne is one of the most underrated wideouts in the league at this point in that system. Everyone's very, very stopping and waiting, ready for Jordan Addison to just take that wide receiver 2 spot. But not even Adam Thielen had that wide receiver 2 spot as surefire as he did last season, specifically with what KJ Osborne did in terms of his clutch factor. I think he had that same value that the Vikings found in Alexander Mattison to be running back number 1. Not saying he doesn't have the talent, but you're making the most out of your rep. You're making the most out of your targets. I think there's a very large benefit in that. And I think, it's not going to be just so easy for Jordan Addison to come in and be wide receiver number 2 in Minnesota.
So, okay, to start this, I do agree. KJ Osborne, week 1, the number 2 there. You said he is going to be more featured, a more solid number 2 than Adam Thielen. Did I hear you say that correctly?
So he played a bigger role in our offense, I think, last year. I would say
KJ Osborne.
Yeah,
he probably
KJ
played more snaps. I think he played more snaps.
He's played more snaps than Adam Thielen, and dude, it felt like
no, incorrect. Adam Thielen had the 2nd most route runs last year, behind number 1 Justin Jefferson.
Wow,
in
that's
the
crazy.
NFL, not even for the Minnesota Vikings.
That's crazy because it doesn't feel like that to me. Watching the Viking games last year, I don't know,
but that also could be an argument for you. Like, what if KJ Osborne does hold on to the 2nd position, which does, I guess that is what your argument would be that he inherits that Adam Thielen role and Jordan Addison takes a year to develop.
I think that's more along the lines of what I'm trying to communicate, because I think KJ was so much more dynamic last year than what he got credit for. And it was really mostly at the most critical points in every game last year for me as a Vikings fan, where, right when all shit is lost, all hope is gone. Oh, wow. Did Kirk just throw a 15-yard pass to KJ? Oh, shit. He's still going. And then, like, he was a different level. And it was like, okay, so I guess we can start throwing to him more. And it was those late game pushes where it was like, then he starts getting his targets because he was consistently catching the ball, getting the yards, and helping us move the field. So
I'm just not nearly as much of a believer. What did you just do, producer Caleb B. Davis? Jesus Christ. I'm not nearly as much as a believer in his talent as you are. I think Jordan Addison is going to inherit that role. I like Jordan Addison more than JSN, for example, for that exact reason. I think he's just going to be a locked and loaded number 2 there.
I'd love to see it.
In week 4 of the season. KJ Osborne, a guy we've disagreed from the very beginning. I don't think you want that guy as your number 2 on your NFL roster. I don't think he is number 2. I think he's a number 3 just in terms of as a talent. So for that reason, I'm not nearly as high on KJ Osborne, but you're right. He could just inherit that number 2 role, and Jordan Addison could be a little bit disappointing, and he could just have an excellent season. But
I'm a Viking fan.
We're looking at his stat line from last year, and look at that snap percentage, Caleb. He's on the field 57% of the snaps that game. He got 1.8 points, 78% got 5.7 points. Like, that's a lot of routes run. 80. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I know. He late in the season last year, he was
had
a
a
little
couple
bit more
of good games,
consistent.
and if you randomly started him in your fantasy football championship game, which why would you? He produced for you. But I mean, yeah, not a guy I'm as excited about as a sleeper pick. Andrew, who's your first sleeper?
My first sleeper is going to be Sam Howell.
The Red
who
Wolves
is
now.
playing on, I think, the most underrated offense in the league. They're bringing in Eric Bieniemy. They're bringing the Chiefs offense. He has 2 solid wide receivers, arguably low-end number 1s, Jahan Dotson and McLaurin. And you have Brian Robinson. No gunshot wounds this season. I'm feeling good about my man.
Maybe he's not. Maybe he's gonna be a little bit more explosive.
Yes.
When he doesn't have lead in his ass. still.
Exactly.
Like
Sam Howell, a guy who rushed for over 1,000 yards in his
Mobile.
last 2 college football seasons. This guy can play.
And Ron Rivera just found out about him.
Exactly.
He's like, oh, this guy's on my roster.
What?
Jesus
I thought this was the coffee boy.
Jesus Christ, Ron Rivera.
Dude, that's so funny.
So that is the downside of this pick is that, and that's why you're getting such a discount on him, is that Ron Rivera is going to get fired in week 12 of this NFL season just because he's just a bad leader. I don't want to talk too much shit about him because, he's had a fine
Difficult
NFL
life.
career and difficult life and health issues along the way. And I don't think he's got it anymore. And that's my only concern about Sam Howell. He's got offensive threats over there at Washington. And I think it's a great sleeper pick, a guy who I started drafting very recently at the end of best ball drafts, especially if I needed like a third quarterback to kind of bolster up a weak quarterback room in best ball. Mobile guy, I think he could score a lot of points. Great pick.
Sam Howell, I'm excited by. I want to start a betting line now that he just has, like, for no reason, an amazing season. The Commanders make him like their guy, the Howl boy, and then they do become the Red Wolves, and everybody in the fucking stadium just howls. That'd
Brilliant.
be so fucking
You need to be the Red
dope.
Wolves. Change it.
Yeah.
Change it now. Only if Sam Howell
The
works out.
Sam
though.
Red Wolves.
Yeah. And, won the job over legit quarterback competition in camp, won the job over Jacoby Brissett, who's someone I really respect as
I
well,
do too,
So
yeah.
brilliant pick. My next sleeper, a twofer, I have a best ball sleeper, a guy I just started drafting recently. And honestly, I should have seen it coming. You can get him in every single 18th round of every single best ball draft. He is the number 3, probably wide receiver, maybe the number 2 wide receiver, a starting wide receiver for the New York Jets, Randall Cobb, 33 years of age, old man, vocal leader on the team. He got a target he was on with every single snap. I think he recently got an $18,000 fine, which that was hilarious, by the way, on Hard Knocks, seeing his wife realize she's not going to get that kitchen remod after this fine, comes in. Just a guy who Aaron Rodgers trusts, a guy who's going to get a lot of targets, and a guy who's going to get touchdowns this season. He's going to be in this explosive offense, and maybe if they triple team like Calvin Johnson style, Garrett Wilson in the red zone, it's just going to be Randall Cobb season for a couple of games in best ball. Not a guy you're going to ever feel good about starting in like a redraft league, but a guy who's just going to have some boom games this year, and a guy who's going to get on your starting lineup multiple times, at least as a flex position in the best ball format. I think sleeper Randall Cobb, guy you're getting for free right now in best ball. Go ahead and grab him instead of grabbing like Baker Mayfield or Puka Nacua is even going in the 17th round.
I'll take Randall Cobb over Allen Robinson. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Exactly. Good. Yeah. Guy who's probably currently going before him in ADP
absolutely.
in best ball. And super duper deep dark sleeper in your dynasty format, a guy who's probably available even in your deepest, darkest dynasty leagues that have like 30 plus roster spots. Jake Bobo for the Seattle Seahawks. He's got a great opportunity for where he's at, a second year guy, I believe undrafted free agent, a guy who I discovered in week 1 of the fantasy football preseason. And I was going back and watching film and I was like, man, I've heard that name before. He was a guy who caught like every single pass for DTR at UCLA. He's all over DTR's highlight film. Jake Bobo is freak athlete, white guy, which, you do have to take that in consideration. He might be the number 3 wide receiver there to start the season, in a guy who I think's talent is just the cream is going to rise to the top with this guy, Jake Bobo, and a guy I think you just need to either, throw some fab at one of your league mates if he has him on their team randomly, or just go ahead and grab him off of the waiver wire. Obviously not a guy I would recommend in most formats unless you're starting like 14 wide receivers in some crazy 40-man league or whatever. Not a guy you're ever going to be able to start this season, but I think a guy in deep dynasty formats, you can just take a shot on Jake Bobo. Caleb B. Davis, who is your next sleeper, your second sleeper for this fantasy football season?
So this one is a hot take. This one I'm not even confident in. I'll honestly just add it to the running trend of what was Jimmy Garoppolo and KJ Osborne. I think Miles Sanders is the next sleeper, just for the sheer fact of Bryce Young being new to the Carolina Panthers, them having a relatively solid offense that's just not really going to go anywhere. I think the most promising person on that offense, apart from Bryce Young and the future for the Carolina Panthers, is going to be somebody like Miles Sanders, who at least has, I'm hoping the work ethic and the temperament of what it takes to make it to the NFL championship. Playing for the Philadelphia Eagles recently, being on the new roster, he should be one of those people that is relied upon as a leader in that locker room in order to actually put themselves together as a competitive team. And I'm actually kind of excited to see how they're going to use him out of the backfield. He's not a stranger to catching passes out of the backfield. I don't know. I think if there is going to be any success with the Panthers and Bryce Young, it has to go through Miles Sanders. I really do think it does. That's me hoping. Again, my entire fucking dynasty fantasy team is not something I'll cry about every week.
I'll say this. Miles Sanders has all the athletic gifts you want. But man, he is just...
It's on the Carolina Panthers, which
I know.
is my main issue with it. The guys I picked are guys on good football teams.
I noticed.
Two Jets, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Seahawks, right? And there's just so much up in the air over there, so much turmoil, so much unknown in Carolina, which gets me off of Miles Sanders in virtually all formats. I guess that what makes him a sleeper, but again, not my favorite pick in terms of sleeper, not a guy I'm going to bend over backwards, not a guy I believe in. I think a prerequisite to most of my sleepers outside of Randall Cobb is I just believe in them as athletes. Randall Cobb, I just believe in terms of the opportunity more. Obviously he was a super freak athlete early in his career, but maybe not so much anymore. And that's kind of why I like them more as my sleepers. Anyways, Andrew, who is your sleeper?
I'm going with Dalton Kincaid.
Okay.
Tight end. And also I think they're slot wide receiver for the Bills.
Okay.
I mean, they don't have a slot. They still don't have a slot. You can't trust Gabe Davis or my boy Shakur.
They have a guy who has been taking slot snaps.
Is it Justin Shorter?
No, I don't think so. His name escapes me. Pull up the Buffalo Bills wide receiver room for me if you do not mind at all.
I think Kincaid is a guy who has double-digit touchdown potential. Kind of the same thing as Dawson Knox. He's going to have some huge games, but also for just a baseline, he could be just catching 5 passes a game, 55 yards. I'll take it.
I am wary on him just in terms of preseason. We've seen they do have a senior tight end, Dawson Knox, that's going to kind of get in the way of him getting as much snaps. We've seen him try to run block, has not looked good. Hardy is his name.
Yeah.
He is the new slot guy. which league is? Oh, this is the redraft. This is the 12-team redraft. I just saw that Hardy was available. I thought it was of my dynasty.
Also, his college says Assumption. Assume he went to college.
Yeah, he's probably another good sleeper in terms of Hardy is in terms of dynasty. He might not be rostered if a few people are asleep at the wheel.
This guy's my size, 5'6", 170. It's not going to go well for him. I'm taking Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah. So, anyways, getting back to Dalton Kincaid, a lot of reasons to be concerned just in terms of usage. There's probably other rookie wide receivers who I like a little bit more for this year. He was the first tight end who was drafted in this draft class, which gives you a little bit of love.
And that's why I like him. He's classified as a tight end, but if you're going to be used as a wide receiver, it gives you a higher probability to score more points than your average, hand in the dirt, Jason Witten guy.
Yeah, but I just don't, for what you're paying for Dalton Kincaid, I don't love like the draft position that you have to take him at. I don't love taking a wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 if Dawson Knox does look good. But yeah, you're getting a little bit of a discount on him. You're still drafting him at like tight end 12 off the board or something like that.
I still think he outproduces Evan Ingram and Njoku this year.
Ooh,
okay.
I don't know about David Njoku.
That's kind of where they're going. So yeah, I guess that is a value. I would rather take Njoku for sure. I'd probably take him over Ingram.
Ingram, yeah, for sure. I'm not buying in on it. I mean, he had like a half of a flash season with the Giants, and I know that he's still been somewhat consistent in Jacksonville. I say somewhat. I know I'm going to get ridiculed.
Consistently bad.
Yeah, I think Dalton Kincaid's in a very similar situation as someone like Breece Hall, where they are going to be valuable in a dynasty league after this season. I will wholeheartedly agree there because 6'4", 240 at 23 years old. I mean, I'm 23 years old and I'm not 6'4", 240.
You want to be like him when you grow up?
I didn't, but yeah, I wish I was like him when I grew up.
All right. So any more sleepers? That's it for y'all?
That is it for me.
Moving on to bold predictions. We're going to do our Super Bowl. We're going to try and keep it moving towards the end of this podcast. Let's pick up the pace. Less chatter. Okay. We're going to rip and dip. And I'm going to have Caleb for this next segment go to the first tab right here and then click. And then when I say go, click that button. You see that button right there? Producer Caleb, to the right, right there.
Beautiful.
No, not yet, Caleb. Not yet. Go to solo. No! Whoa. Caleb, God damn it. You're going to give up. You're going to give it up. I'll never be able to edit that out, Producer Caleb, you son of a bitch. I said when I said go,
hey,
Caleb.
You said you wanted to yell at me today.
I did.
I'm trying to give you the ability
Anyways,
to do that.
I'm not mad at Caleb at all. My bold prediction for the 2023 NFL season is Tua Tagovailoa plays 17 games, all 17 games this season. Tua's going to stay healthy. He got clowned this offseason for taking jiu-jitsu classes, for putting on some weight, strengthening his neck. His neck is 3 times the size as it was last year, which is very important. I am a medical professional. I have an athletic training background. That was my major in undergrad. I'm a chiropractor right now. I'm technically a doctor, and I am an all-American wrestler, and I know somebody who doesn't know how to fall, and I know somebody who has poor body control. Go ahead and touch that, Caleb. Touch that button, please. Go ahead and expand this for me. Okay, so here is his hip dislocation in Alabama. Tua Tagovailoa. Go ahead and play it, Caleb. We're playing it on the screen. 2 guys on his back, throws the ball away. How does he fall? Instead of rolling over onto his hip, onto his right shoulder, which is what he should have done, he turned his body and he tried to brace his fall with his knee by putting his knee up like that. And that is what caused his hip dislocation in college. Next video, Caleb, exit out of this one. And then we'll go to the next tab here. Okay, now here's last season, one of Tua's concussion plays. Go ahead and just hit start from right where we are. Tua throws the ball, gets lightly shoved, falls on his butt, whiplashes the back of his head onto the floor. Poor body control, doesn't know how to fall, and very weak neck. You'll see a lot of players get thrown to the floor like that all the time in preseason. We've seen it a ton. Guys get knees to the helmet and their neck is strong because they do neck training to prevent these concussions. So that is an excellent example of a preventable concussion that Tua has put time and energy into to prevent this upcoming season. Go ahead and go to the next tab. Go ahead and run this one. So this is the one I get mocked about, right? Like, how are you going to prevent this concussion? How are you going to prevent this concussion? He just got whiplashed onto the ground. Okay, so it looks bad, right? Looks unpreventable. Play it back again for me, Caleb. Watch what Tua does when I play it back a little bit more. There, here we go. Okay, so Tua, instead of rolling over to his left shoulder, which he easily could have, he hyperextended his low back, tried to throw he's a lefty, tried to throw the ball away for some reason, instead of taking the sack, protecting his body, and rolling onto that left shoulder. One more time, imagine if Tua tucks his chin and rolls to his left shoulder as he's getting tossed, like you get trained to do in jiu-jitsu, in judo. This is a classic judo throw. You get thrown like this a million times. And if you go to a judo class, in wrestling, this is a common position that you're in. In a lat drop, you tuck your chin and you roll to that shoulder. That's how you protect yourself in this position. This is also a preventable concussion, a preventable injury for Tua. Okay, next video. Dove Kleiman on Twitter does a great job. He's a great Twitter follow. You should follow him. Here's a preseason video. And it's going to run again. Just like he got popped in the chest kind of late in his first concussion video that we saw, what he should have done, exactly what he should have done when he got whipped in that last video, turn onto his hip, kind of break the fall with his elbow, which is exactly what you should be doing. This is what you do in wrestling without extending your hand out, risking your throwing hand, risking your throwing elbow. He just kind of lightly glanced off his elbow, rolled onto his left shoulder, onto his hip, where all the meat is. And look at what his chin does. Look at what his chin does right when he rolls over to his back. What does his chin do?
Stay down.
Tucks up.
Yep.
Tucks up, right? Has strengthened his neck, has put the time in. And for that reason, Tua Tagovailoa will play all 17 games this season, and I think is an absolute value at where you're getting him on virtually all formats. Tua Tagovailoa, my first bold prediction of this NFL season. Go ahead and pause that for me, Caleb, and then I'm going to have you click the solo button right here. Producer Caleb on the screen.
This
first
one right
time
here?
being a producer, doing an excellent job, if I do say so myself. That is my first bold prediction. Andrew, what is your bold prediction for this season? First one.
My first bold prediction is the Washington Commanders will make the playoffs this year. And they will not have a losing season. It'll be 9-7, and they are making the playoffs.
Okay, so my first question is, how does a 9-7 team make the playoffs in that division?
Last year the Giants made the playoffs, so the Cowboys and the Eagles.
Yeah.
Because I'm expecting one team to come out of the Central Division, right?
So NFC. So you're predicting a weak NFC this year. Okay. That is pretty crazy. Why do you think that? Because I think their head coach is going to get fired week 8.
This is a team that is Ron Rivera, not the best coach, but a guy who tends to kind of just luckily make the playoffs every 3 or 4 years. And this is like the perfect combination of a new offensive coordinator, extremely high-end skilled players, and an offensive coordinator has a chip on his shoulder, Eric Bieniemy, a guy who probably should be an NFL head coach, but is not, who's going to take an offense that has been set in a stone age and moving it forward. I think all the parts, all the stars are lining up for the Commanders.
I love it. Absolutely brilliant. So also goes in line with your sleeper pick as well.
Yep,
kind of like,
Howell,
kind of on the same vein as me.
I'm expecting them to take a similar leap the Jaguars did last year. Maybe it's a slow start, 2-4, hot finish.
So you're a Washington guy. I'm a Jets guy. Have you done 2 picks on the same team so far?
I have the Eagles.
The Eagles. You're the Eagles guy.
Shit.
Jalen squared.
Yep.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, go ahead. What is your first bold prediction, Caleb B. Davis?
The Minnesota Vikings will win 12 games this year.
There we
That's
go.
my prediction.
How many did they win last year?
Last year, I think they won
13,
13. Yeah, 13. I think I went to, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Why do you think that, Caleb?
I just think they still have to. Like if they don't, Okay, well then let me go ahead and do this. That's my first bold prediction. I think the Vikings
They obviously win the division this year. Go ahead. What's your second?
I think the Vikings win the division with 12 wins. That's not to discredit any other NFC North team, but I still do think, despite that, next year the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers will be Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins for the 49ers going to outcompete Brock Purdy, huh?
I think
After
he will be there.
Goes to an NFC championship this year, Brock Purdy again.
I don't know NFC championships in the cards for the Vikings, but
I'm talking about
Niners. The Niners. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think even despite being, somewhat what you would consider a successful season without a Super Bowl, Kirk Cousins is still on a different team next year. And honestly, you'll probably see a better Kirk Cousins for it, if we're going to be honest.
Love that bold prediction. That is bold. It is bold because they're in a tough division. Lions getting all the hype. I love the Lions. That's my favorite team this year. I think they need a wide receiver too. Maybe Jahmyr Gibbs is that wide receiver too. But there is a lot of unknown on in that whole division, especially Jordan Love as well. My second bold prediction in fantasy football and in real life, we've kind of already alluded to it earlier, is Dalvin Cook, who is going 4 or 5 rounds after Breece Hall, will outproduce Breece Hall this year in virtually all fantasy football formats. I think not only that, I think he will maintain the bell cow role, being on the field 60% of the time when Breece Hall is 100% healthy late in this season. He is gonna win you fantasy football championships. What are we talking about? This is still Dalvin Cook. At the end of the day, it's not like he's 32 years old. It's not like he showed any signs of slowing up last year. He produced in probably behind a worse offensive line. He's got Aaron Rodgers there, who brought him there on purpose. I think Dalvin Cook easily outproduces Mr. Breece Hall this year. And the only reason Breece Hall is going as high as he is because people aren't willing to admit it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Andrew, who's your next bold prediction, your second bold prediction?
Not as spicy as the first one, but pretty spicy.
Okay.
Ezekiel Elliott evolves into a heavily touchdown-dependent 14 touchdown running back with one last 1,000-yard season in him.
Oh.
It is the last ride.
Nuclear season for Ezekiel Elliott. 1,000 yards rushing and how many touchdowns?
14
touchdowns.
Zeke eats clam chowder for the first time and he likes it.
Bill Belichick loves his veterans. It feels like it kind of makes sense. Could you imagine how disappointed you are as somebody who drafted Ramondre Stevenson as the bell cow back for New England?
Only
Ezekiel
to watch
Elliott
fall in the end zone time and time again from the 2-yard line
behind Cole Strange or whatever his name is, the offensive guard or center that they drafted the first round last year. I love it. What a brilliant hot take, bold prediction out of Andrew. And then you already did your second one, right?
Yep.
So that brings us to our Super Bowl predictions. And I have been stewing on this prediction for a while.
It's a competitive league this year. It's a very difficult question to answer.
There's a lot of stuff up in the air. Who's going to look good where? Who's going to win what? And I think we see a return candidate and a team that did not make the playoffs last year in the Super Bowl.
Oh boy.
Oh boy is right, because I think we see the Eagles return. That's your team. The Philadelphia Eagles return. Their defense doesn't look quite as good as last year, but doesn't matter. That offense is too dominant. They're going to play all 4 quarters. Their rookies on the defensive side of the ball are going to start performing well towards the end of the season. Eagles are going to make the Super Bowl. And on the AFC side of things, my team of the year, the New York Football Jets and Aaron Rodgers, ride in to the Super Bowl. A superpowered defense. Sauce Gardner looks even better than he did last year. Garrett Wilson looks like a bona fide best wide receiver in the league. Aaron Rodgers returns to form like he looked 2 years ago. And how he looked 3 years ago when his thumb was not broken in his throwing hand. That offensive line is going to be fine. The defense is going to be dominant, even more so than they were last year. The wide receiver room is going to take another step up, and they had a massive upgrade at the running back position, which I am a running back truther. I think it is a big deal that they have 2 superstar running backs for the New York Jets. And I think, I'll admit, I was like, I can't have the Jets winning the Super Bowl. Like, the Eagles are just too dominant. They're just too good. How could I just honestly look into the camera and say that the New York Jets are going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl? And then I thought a second time, and I was like, you know what? It's Aaron Rodgers' season. Super Bowl MVP, regular season MVP. The New York Jets kick the shit out of the Philadelphia Eagles and win themselves a Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers' second Super Bowl. Most Jets fans' first Super Bowl in their entire life. New York Jets win the Super Bowl. 41-27.
Ooh.
Andrew, what is your Super Bowl pick?
In a similar vein, I too had the Jets making the Super Bowl. To me, this season just screams out John Wick 3. Aaron Rodgers reunited with his best friend, offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett.
Mm-hmm. John Wick. Aaron Rodgers dresses John Wick for Halloween.
Yeah. They have all the weapons he likes. They have a very aggressive defense.
Yep.
And they're gonna have time. Like, this reminds me of Brady coming into the Bucs, during the COVID season. He has something to prove. Oh, you're washed up. Aaron Rodgers, you're washed. You're unvaxxed. You're crazy. You're an asshole. You know what? That may be all true, but he also has another 50 touchdown season in him.
Woo. I
believe it. I put money on Aaron Rodgers to win the MVP. My wife's going to pay up on this, my friends. I'm going to get...
And what, like 35 of those 50 touchdown passes go to Garrett Wilson, you think?
I believe so.
35 touchdown.
I believe
so. Just a light 35 touchdown season for Garrett Wilson.
This is a Madden 24 season for him.
I love it.
Now, on the other side of the coin, I have them playing the Dallas Cowboys.
Woo! Same division.
Okay. It's a season where I can see Dak staying healthy, weak NFC, some weird things happening. The Eagles, the 49ers knocking each other off, and then the Cowboys coming in to kick over who's left.
That would be by far the most watched Super Bowl.
Yes.
It would be a record that would literally never be broken. 2 massive markets in the Dallas Cowboys and New York. America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, an iconic organization. Also, the Jets, an iconic organization. It would be an absolutely spectacular.
And
Super
they are
Bowl
destined to lose to the Jets.
Yep.
34-24.
Oof.
Because the simulation has told me so.
I love it. Great prediction there. And a comeback year for Dak, huh? And what, Trey Lance just gets shipped off to the next sad team, this next sad organization.
He goes back to the 49ers to back up Kirk.
Oh, that's brilliant. All right, Caleb, what's your Super Bowl prediction? Let's get the hell out of here.
All right, so it was quite a bit too, but that was a ponder joke. I also have the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl because it's just so hard to stop the freight train that is the Philadelphia Eagles, Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. And I have the Brett Favre New York Jets situation too far back in my recollection. I don't think Aaron Rodgers has anywhere near a similar situation or a scenario that Brett Favre had when he was, recently departed from the Green Bay Packers, now a recent new joined member of the New York Jets. I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to take the Jets at least to the AFC Championship. I don't know, however, that they're going to have enough of what it's going to take to topple a surprising AFC team, not really, in the Buffalo Bills.
Okay, I love it.
Ooh. And I think that the Philadelphia Eagles will curb stomp the shit out of the Buffalo Bills 37-17, but they're not really going to show it until the second half. Like, Buffalo's really going to make Jalen Hurts.
They're going to come out of the locker room.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs. Now, reestablished leader of the Buffalo Bills.
He's benched Josh Allen, and the Eagles have
Starts
won.
a locker room mutiny.
Exactly, dude. That's exactly what I expect out of Stephon Diggs and the Buffalo Bills. They're going to have everything that it takes in terms of talent and coordination to get there, but then they're going to fuck up the execution, and Stephon Diggs is going to start pointing fingers. And have fun on your new team.
I love it. Great prediction. My name is Jamie Jakes. If you've rocked with this whole episode or you're just watching the clip version of it, we really appreciate you. Please subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to me on Twitter. I recently had a tweet that might end up getting 1 million views about the Colorado TCU game. You can follow me on Twitter at JAMJKS, and you can also follow me on Instagram at drjamiejakes. Caleb B. Davis, tell them where to find you.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at FunnyCBD, on TikTok at ThatFunnyCBD, and on Facebook at Caleb B. Davis. I also appreciate you all watching the show I just produced painfully, but you won't see that, hopefully.
I'm not editing it out. I'm not even going to edit. I'm only going to edit
Honestly,
like the zoom ins and the zoom outs. I'm just going to run the whole episode. I thought it was absolutely awesome.
I think this was a really good episode.
I will edit out, however, I will edit out the part where I fucked up the intro.
I was not happy about the Jets-Cowboys prediction, though, because I do know we've had at least one guest on here before who would point to an NFL script. So we're not looking for that entirely. I think it's going to be an interesting season, and this was a great episode.
Yep. Yeah. So speaking of which, we will have live watch parties. So please subscribe to the channel if you want to hear some of my fun Cowboys friends commentate a Cowboys game. Andrew, do you have anything to promote? Do you have anything to say to the viewers? I know you're not like a public figure.
Well, you can find me either here
Hope you run for office,
or at the local Quick Trip off the highway.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
I love everything about that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good night.